No pressure.
No pressure. All right. Welcome to Breaking the Build podcast with James and Tim here. This is our first one. So um, thanks for listening. If you are listening, and I could say hi, mom, but I don't think my mom would listen to a podcast.
My mom might. She asked if she could be a guest, so I don't think I don't know if we need that, but she did do development for many years. So hi,
I
mom.
mean, yeah. Hi, James's mom. Do you think she'd pull a good crowd in? Is the thing like how's
The senior center crowd in Mooresville, North Carolina. Absolutely.
it's untapped demographic, honestly. Awesome. So we kind of go through a little bit. Sort of the format is the first one. If you're not used to it, we're gonna probably talk through a couple topics that we have, and then sort of end on some what we would call just some questions of would you rather, and then kind of wrap it. I think aiming for around the 20-30 mark, so 20-30 minute mark, so that way you can have something to listen to in your morning commute. If people still commute.
Yeah. I mean, I think you should tell people why you wanted to make a podcast because some people do it for fame, money, sponsorship. Um, but podcasts are kind of on their way out. So why don't you explain this one?
Sponsorship, really, the Squarespace and Audible sponsorship money was it. My daughter wants a iPad for Christmas, and even though they're called apples, they don't grow on trees. So I was hoping, and first of all, don't put this all on me. You wanted to do this because you are also here. No, I think I approached you. I was just like, hey, remember like 30 years ago when you went on GeoCities and you're like, I'm gonna make another website. And even though there's like already 50 of them that exist, and you're like, no, I don't really care. I'm just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of where it was. Like I wanted to just go and create stuff. I know that you and I have, we've done a couple dinners at conferences or get-togethers that ended up in like laughing tears over the table with the amount of nonsense that we got up to. So I figured at the very minimum it'll be entertaining for us.
Exactly. I think there's too much professional stuff in the world. Tech should be fun. So why not have fun again? And if it's
That's
really
right.
bad, I'll just choke it up to a midlife crisis. It'll be fine.
I mean, it's better than buying a sports car. So yeah, you heard James. What is this Breaking the Build podcast? It is unprofessional,
Unprofessional fun. Yep.
unprofessional fun.
Because as you get older, you want to be less professional. And that's the first topic, right? Getting older. We did put together topics, so we're somewhat professional. The first one being that JavaScript hit 30 years old this year. Came out originally in 1995. So definitely makes me feel aged because I do remember when it came out. I do remember using it and being excited about it.
I
Um, you know,
remember, I remember BOM, browser object model, versus DOM, document
yep,
object model. I think I told you since it came out in '95 that officially makes JavaScript a millennial,
yeah,
young millennial, not an elder. I think I fall in the elder. Um,
I definitely
so
do.
yeah,
I mean, millennial styles are coming back with the young people, so I'm hoping that we get like cursor trails back on websites. Let's bring back
Dinko
that
jeans,
fashion. Yeah.
Dinko jeans and cursor trails. JavaScript's gonna go back into that.
Yep. Reminisce on it.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I remember back, so we had Netscape was that's actually, so that people know that, but like Netscape is that's what invented JavaScript, because originally Internet Explorer was JScript. It wasn't JavaScript. It was JScript because it was a copy of Netscript's JavaScript, and Netscape had the browser object model, and it was actually Internet Explorer, Microsoft, that came up with the DOM.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I had sleepless nights over Netscape Navigator 4.7 because that's what I had to support. Younger people probably remember IE6, that they're like, this will not die, and it's terrible to code for it. And that for me, that was Netscape Navigator 4.7. But I definitely had a throwback to that setting up this podcast because I'm using new podcast software, and I tried to open it up and it was like, your browser's not compatible. You need to use Chrome. And I'm like, I haven't seen a message like that since the IE days where they're like, you must use Internet Explorer.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's not bring that back into practice.
Yeah.
Especially since all I did was change the user agent on Firefox and it's working perfectly until I find out that it's not recording later. But I mean, we're hoping that it's
Yeah.
working perfectly.
Are, are we recording this now?
I sure hope so.
All right. Um, I do. So here's what I find funny about that. So we talk about how the internet has changed and not always necessarily for the better. I think the term used is shitification and all this
Yeah.
stuff like that. I will say though, like that is one area that it has gotten better because that like the amount of like if because you used to have to include like comments at the top of your document that was like use this
Yeah.
stuff if you're IE6, use this if you're IE7, if you're Firefox, and then Chrome came out, and then you're like, oh man, another one with the V8 engine and all this stuff. But like you literally had to write a ton of code for like 8 different browsers just to get something to load. And usually it was like you need to use Internet Explorer because uh, Internet Explorer used to be connected directly into your operating system
Yeah.
with DirectX. And they were like, please use Internet Explorer so we can access your operating system. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, you did have to write a lot of and you were writing all of that code by hand because you'd run your website and you'd open the other browser and you'd be like, "Well, this doesn't work, so now I'm gonna go, like, write this hack by hand to make it work in every browser."
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's definitely gotten better. We're definitely spoiled as we just kinda transpile it, babble, all the different options.
I do. I think on my one of my like old blogs about Internet Explorer, I have an image there. It's actually one I took. It's not one I found. Where I was trying to debug something in Internet Explorer, and it had the box object model for CSS. You know the way you
Yeah,
paddings and margins and borders and all that stuff. And it was like the margin is like 9.99. The padding is 19.99 and the border is 0.99. And it's like one of those things. And it is like one of those awesome Internet Explorer bugs where if like
yep,
somebody told me to actually code that, I'd be
yeah,
like, you can't do that. And like nobody could figure it out. And then
but it
you
works.
accidentally do that. And you're like, this is sort of beautiful. Like you've broken it in a way that you can't even figure out how it's broken. And I kind of miss that about the internet.
I
Honestly, like
mean, at least you had borders. I open old code and I see tables with images that create the border just to have a rounded corner. So,
well, you know, you have to, yeah, the images. So I was interviewing a candidate once and, we're going back. This is the turns 30, but I asked him, you know, what was the hardest thing he's ever had to develop or code his like white whale story for development. And he looked at me and he said, oh, have you ever had to do HTML emails? And I was like, yeah. He
yeah,
goes, they're so hard because, like, have you ever heard of a table layout? They're so, and I was like, okay, buddy. Have I heard of a table layout? My
have I?
friend, let me tell you what it was like before the CSS was released. Yeah.
It's CSS was huge. I mean, I remember the Zen Garden
Yeah.
trying to show you the power. It was so exciting.
Rollovers, man. You used to have to write JavaScript to do a button rollover.
Yeah. The other stat besides being 30 is that TypeScript has overtaken JavaScript in terms of GitHub code. Um, it's making people question, is TypeScript now a bigger language and is JavaScript on the way out? And I mean, my hot take is they're not different. TypeScript's just a superset of JavaScript. So, yes, it adds types, but you're still writing JavaScript at the end of the day. I'm sorry. You don't get to think you're better than JavaScript developers just because you've added some types.
types types are an illusion. Which is actually true. It's like, you know, classes, but they're like, oh, we have classes in JavaScript. I'm like, we had them back then. They were just, you know, new object. No, I think I hate types in JavaScript. Like, I get it. I get why. I'm not like anti TypeScript. I just, somebody who has been writing JavaScript for almost 30 years it's been out. It's like, man, we used to call it duck script or duck typing, right? Like, looks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's a duck. Um, and that's part of the way everybody, like, oh my God, the bugs and the errors that you get with JavaScript and not typing. But like, man, the fun, clever things you could do with it, because you're like, this is an array now. Is it an array?
Yeah.
You don't know, but it passes your
Yep.
your function. And now it's like, no, it has to be a type. But I mean, but like, this actually like, if you go back to the way React first came out with props, part of the component spec with the early React applications was declaring the types of the props. And this gets into like all the compiling that happens, which is kind of funny when you think about JavaScript being a compiled language now, which I would argue is more to do with TypeScript than
Yeah.
anything, just because as you started to get into Babel and all the other stuff, like, it used to be Java. You go back 30 years, it was spaghetti code. You just
Yeah.
wrote and uploaded a file, and now you got to build and compile and deploy, and
Yeah.
that was
It's grown up. It's a millennial.
it's, yeah. It's got a job. It's got a build job now, right? The build job has a 401k,
Yep.
dental plan. Yeah.
It used to be just browsers. Now they're like, nope, everything. Back end database is going to be JSON. We're just going to do everything in JavaScript.
I always joked that my dream one day is to write JavaScript that like launched a rocket, like a actual rocket, and then finding somebody like brave enough.
I was gonna say, are we talking about like a small like
No,
model rocket? Are you talking like the space shuttle?
like the space shuttle. Like, would you get in like, best JavaScript developers in the world, right? JavaScript space shuttle. Would you get in that space shuttle?
No,
I know this isn't in the would you rather phase. I know, but I'm just like, would you get in a JavaScript space shuttle? Or like, what language space shuttle would you get into?
I I'm not sure I would get into the JavaScript space shuttle. I do love the language, but I feel like something a little lower level where you don't have so many steps between writing the code and executing it that there could be errors along the way. Because think about any bugs and patches and issues come out in all of those layers in between JavaScript
Oh yeah.
and the execution side.
All right.
So,
Well, I mean,
you
it's
know,
not the PHP space shuttle. Where you're
also
like,
no.
you're just like, look, this plugin, the plugin that is Thruster.
I
We're using the free version of the Thruster plugin. We have to pay $7 a year for the paid Thruster plugin. What does it give us? The thrust.
you know, we have used source and grabbed the navigation module from some other website, from some other space shuttle. Yep.
Yeah, now you can't even do that. That actually used to be the greatest way to write code back in 30 years ago. You were like, I wonder how they did this. View source, and you just copy it. Now it's compiled.
Copyrights are meaningless.
Yeah, yeah. What is JavaScript's not copyrighted, right? It's like math, just following none of the rules of math.
I mean, you can still get source maps sometimes. There was that big breach that Apple pushed out a new version of the Apple Store and pushed the source maps with it. So everyone's like, now I have your source code. So you can sort of do it, just
Yeah,
not
but
consistently.
what are you gonna do with that? I mean, make a Apple II store?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the space shuttle. It's gonna be so you can buy the meals, the spaceman ice cream.
This is a very minimal space shuttle, extremely clean lines. Yeah, you drive it with one button.
You're good. It's all you need.
They removed all the ports from the space shuttle. Everything is Bluetooth. Yeah, one window that you can look out is, yeah, there we go.
I mean, you say space shuttle, but I joke about that all the time that, my job's been building e-commerce websites. So if you make a mistake, no one's going to die at the end of the day. It's not like I'm building, implants for people or
Yeah.
space shuttles or other mission critical stuff. So,
Oh, a
yeah,
JavaScript like pacemaker.
yeah.
But like, I don't know, like what language is there if you're going into a space shuttle, if you're going in for a like which one if you're like, "Doctor, what is this written in?" Would you feel good if it's like proprietary? I mean, you kind of be like,
I get it.
maybe. If he's like it's proprietary medical, I'd be like, okay, maybe.
I
I
mean,
feel like I feel like Java's grown up. I feel like it's Java. I'd be like, yeah, it makes sense.
I don't know. I'm not in that field, but I want some C, C++. If it's new, maybe Rust. So, something a
I
little
have
lower level.
Yeah. All right. See, James would get into Rust space shuttle.
Yeah.
If I would say if it's written in JavaScript by a guy that knows JavaScript from 30 years ago, and it's not compiled, I probably trust that space shuttle.
I mean, I
If
would
it's
take
an
the
NPM,
JavaScript space shuttle that's coded by hand over
yeah.
the, C space shuttle that's all vibe coded with AI any day. At least then someone looked at it.
I mean, like NPM is awesome. Don't get me wrong; it's awesome to be able to just kind of spin things up. But like, I always love that. I remember like one time, like you're like, oh yeah, I need to have every single one of these packages reviewed.
Yeah,
By hand?
it's a lot of packages.
Yeah, do you have like 9 months to do this? Because I don't think you know what you're asking for. But yeah, but if it's coded by hand, like Netscape 4.7, that'll run.
Yeah, that's the operating system for the space shuttle.
That's the operating Netscape 4.7. Yeah. Uh,
We
uh,
had an agenda. I don't know where it went, but we've
I,
definitely lost track at this point.
this is going exactly the way I thought it would. So no worries. We're talking about TypeScript. We're talking about it overpassing regular JavaScript or on GitHub. Um, that it's growing. Is it a actual language? Is it just compiled JavaScript?
Yeah,
Um,
I think I've offended all the TypeScript diehards at this point. So,
I mean, but like, but React isn't like its own language either, even though React is its own thing with like JSX and all this stuff too. It's kind of a
I mean,
subset.
React is a library. You could make the claim that JSX is a language, but I wouldn't.
Yeah. I,
I mean,
I
think
don't
your
know.
machine.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't there a way in TypeScript to just kind of eject out of TypeScript and use JavaScript?
Well, technically, all JavaScript code is valid TypeScript code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the linter that yells at you. It's been a
Yeah.
while since I've had to do TypeScript, and I was like, nah, I don't like this because it's making me follow rules.
Make me do smart things
Yeah. It's like,
rather than just throw some
yeah.
slop on the page and hope that it works.
Is this an object? I don't know. Are you a cop? Yeah.
Could be.
Compilers. Yes. That's what they really are. Um, but I think you were asking, like, is it, you're talking about AI, when I know that that's one of our topics we're getting into because I've heard that that's a pretty popular topic these days.
Yeah, people talk about AI sometimes.
You're saying, you're wondering if it was contributing to the dominance of TypeScript just because types make things easier for AI.
Yeah, and I heard this hot take on YouTube where someone said, "Why is anyone coding in any language other than like Rust or C or some really fast language?" And his point was, you have AI, so you might as well just let AI code in the fastest language that exists. And the counterpoint being AI is trained on code and there's very little Rust code out there. There's lots and lots of JavaScript and TypeScript code. So yeah, pros and cons there. And I'm kind of on the side that the AI models are definitely better at writing things that are common. Like you can knock out a visual website with JavaScript very quickly.
Yeah.
Give it something weird and unique and it falls over.
Actually, and I'll attribute this. I have a buddy that's Bob P. Um, and he used to say that code is optimized for clock cycles or dev cycles. And he because most code is optimized for dev cycles. Like, is it readable, maintainable, operable, debuggable? All of those things. There's very rare situations where it's optimized for clock cycles, and with the speed of everything these days, like I mean, you could look at like a Chrome tab that was like 4 gigs the other day, and it's like clearly they're not optimizing that for memory use and clock cycles. They're just assuming everybody has 100 gigs of RAM in every single device they're using. But I think it just goes to the overall um, mindset of just code is still written for humans by humans, whether it's vibe coding or AI or whatever the case it is. And if it's we've been so good at like making things dry and reusable and documented so that way when you're in an organization that to your point, like there's so much node and JavaScript out there that has all of that in there. It's like, oh, I can somewhat understand what this is versus this is written with like the triple ternary where it's like,
Yeah.
why is there so many question marks in this statement?
I
Yeah.
mean, I do blame JSX a little bit for the multiple ternary expressions, especially when they're nested together. It's a common paradigm, um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess the case is, uh, you mentioned dev cycles. If dev becomes cheaper with AI, does that flip the script? But that goes on the assumption that AI is going to replace all the developers, which is a very hot topic.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't buy it. I think AI will. I think it's gonna like you're going from like, hey, we have hand use hammers to like pneumatic hammers and jackhammers and all these other things, and I think that there's an acceleration, but I don't know, like, I always find it weird because, React didn't exist 30 years ago. We talk about when JavaScript started, and React didn't also just come from like a vacuum. Like you had JavaScript, and then you started getting into libraries. Everybody knows jQuery, but like there was also Prototype, which was another library that was competing with jQuery, and then Spry was Adobe's library that they came out with um, back when they would write their own code like that, and jQuery kind of won that, and then the problem with that became spaghetti code, and how do you manage this, which gave birth to the MV star frameworks like Ember and Knockout and
Yep.
all of those. And so we had all these differentiated components, and then they're like, well, how do all these things talk together? And you got into like the service, like the JavaScript event buses, which then led to React, which is like, hey, the data model and the unidirectional data model and the state and the store and all these things like that, and Redux. So like it was an evolution of 30 years. And if
Uh-huh.
you injected AI at the piece of like jQuery, you're just going to write jQuery for the remainder because that's all AI is being trained on, right? And so at some point, like you have to, there's the, if we just defer entirely, like we're stuck here because it's not thinking new ways of doing things. It's regurgitating what it's learning.
I mean, that's a good take that you really can't push it forward to the next step without human intervention at this point. I'm sure there are AI people listening that are like, of course AI is going to invent new things, but I haven't seen it yet. Uh, And
Yeah.
I mean, to me, AI gives this false sense of skills. Like I was trying to make a banner for my sister's birthday. So I go to AI because I can't draw. And I'm like, here's a photo of her, make a cartoon version. And it was like a hibachi dinner thing. I'm like, make a cartoon version where she's at a hibachi table by the lake. And it makes this great image. I'm like, this is a great banner, but you spelled happy birthday slightly wrong and you gave her glasses for some reason, which she doesn't wear. Can you fix those two things? And it fixes those, but then all of a sudden the table's gone and the lakes turn into the ocean. And it's like, I went back and forth maybe 12 times. So the first time, the very first prompt, I'm like, wow, you are a great artist. That is amazing. You're an expert in this field. And by the 12th time going back and forth, I'm like, you are the dumbest idiot that
Mm.
I ever worked with. I'm giving you the simplest things like change the color of the shirt to red. And all of a sudden, like there's shrimp flying in the air. I don't understand.
Yeah, I've like, yeah, I had it. I remember the early days. I asked it to make an elephant, and it made an elephant, and it had no tusks. And I was like, "Can you make? Can you give the elephant two tusks?" So I gave it two tusks, but each tusk actually was two tusks. So I had four tusks. So I said, "You gave it too many tusks. Can you go just do two tusks?" And then it was just like it was like antlers for tusks, and I was like, and at that point, I'm like, this is no longer saving me time. Like we are
Yep.
at an impasse.
And I
Yeah.
mean, when you're looking at pictures, it's so obvious that you ask for something simple and it's wrong, but it's doing it with code too in the background. If you're not watching it, if you're not double checking, you ask for it and it looks like it works. And then you go back, you're like, what is this? How did this happen? Um, Common example is that it'll just go and delete your entire test suite because you're like, fix the tests, make sure they always pass. And so it'll just delete the suite. And like, it always passes. The test runner no longer throws errors. I'm good.
It's like,
And
yeah.
yeah, it's constantly doing that, let alone not being able to invent something new. It's just regurgitating what it thinks you want, and it's not always good at that.
Yeah, I mean, I do find it funny because there's like wrong, and then there's like, wow, like I don't even know how we got here, or wow, we got here and we shouldn't have. Like the picnic table is now part of the ocean, right? The elephant has antlers, and you're just kind of like, okay, we're getting there. Uh, when I've used it, I found some like I've used it for coding mockups where I get like an SDK, which to me is sort of a pretty good model. I think we're going to start seeing most major SDKs are going to come with some sort of MCP or
Mhm.
something to help kind of developers. Hey, I know development. I know how to write, TypeScript. uh, I'm building a space shuttle. How do I go in there and use the thruster SDK to launch the space shuttle, right? And being able to use AI to kind of framework out the SDK so you could go write the code, right? When X happens, do this. But even then, I've had issues where it's kind of making up functions on our methods on an object, and I'll have to go in and I'll just like debug to output like what's the object, and the method is close, but you could see it's not the same method name. And yeah, I mean, if you're not paying close attention to it, you get some weird bugs, or you're duplicating stuff in there. And I think that's why, I like my metaphors, right? If you're building a shed and you've never seen a shed before, like like it doesn't matter how many kits you buy, you're going to want to spend some time familiarizing yourself
Yeah.
with like what a shed is. Cause even with a kit with a picture, you're gonna be like, okay, I don't know I don't understand any of these concepts, right? But if you're at least somewhat familiar with it, the kit will help with some pre-built stuff, but you're still gonna want to understand the basics of, construction. Like, hey, I don't want to put the 2x4s directly on the ground because they'll rot and sink into the mud. So I gotta do some foundational pieces and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely it's not there to take over everything. I do find the mistakes funny though.
But I think you've hit a good point, which is, um, you don't know what you don't know. And so people that don't know art think it's making great imagery, and artists are looking at it and going, this doesn't replace human effort. People that don't know how to
Yeah,
code or haven't coded in a long time are looking at the output going, this is amazing. It's going to replace developers. And the actual developers are looking at it and saying, no, this isn't very good. And I've gotten so far that I talk to my front end devs and they're like, yeah, it's better at the back end stuff than the front end because they're really good at front end. And so they're better at judging it. And I talk to the back end devs and they're like, I think it's a lot better at UI stuff than it is at the back end because they're really good at back end development and they don't know how to judge the UI code. And so you need to kind of lower your standards a little bit with AI and accept the output, or be willing to be that expert that comes back through and fixes everything later and improves it and makes it better than what it was. So,
I mean,
I mean, long roundabout way of saying no. I don't think it's replacing experts anytime soon. We've got time.
I do find the cycle. I wonder how much like psychological is like. Look, man, me, I'm way better than this AI stuff, but those other guys, those other developers over there, they could probably be replaced by it. And it's like, okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't, like you said, you got to understand. I do, and like we've seen this with vibe coding, which is like, I'm just going to jump in, but that vibe coding is not a new concept. I've seen plenty of architectures where you're like, how did we get here? Right. Or you see somebody talking about an idea and then showing you a roadmap, and you go in, you're like, why does somebody accidentally build their own commerce platform? And you're like, you look at somebody coming up with an idea and then the roadmap, and you're like, oh, this is how you accidentally home grow a platform.
Yep.
Is because you're just like, I'm going to build this today and then we'll figure the rest out later. And then in 2 years, you're like, wow, this is way unmaintainable. We should have done things differently. And it's like, take the time to just like, let's map this out. Let's see what this looks like in like over time. And
I,
so vibe coding's not new.
I mean, I disagree. I think planning is overrated. Just jump right in. Definitely just start doing and adding over years. The last thing you'd want is to really think things out and put together a plan for any type of project. Like when I built my shed, I just bought a few 2x4s and a hammer. And I mean, the thing's great.
Yeah. You just go to Home Depot throughout the day as you need more supplies, where you're like, well, who knew you needed studs?
Yeah. And they kept talking about screws, but construction glue, it's just
Yeah.
fine.
Tape, duct
Little
tape.
duct tape. Yep.
Yeah. 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 No, yeah, I don't think it'll be interesting to see if it ever gets there. But I mean, I still go back to the original thing. And this is what I haven't, with all of the talk around AI, I guess the answer that maybe I haven't heard is like, what is like, you're learning on a lot of stuff today. But if you quote unquote get rid of all the humans, then what does it learn on? Right.
Yeah.
And like I guess the only answer is like, oh, it makes its own. And like, okay, I just like, our society is not set up to not have a human involved. Like even like the self-driving robots, we don't even, or cars, like accidents and like liability. Like it's going to be interesting. I can't wait for the first chargeback to come through on a credit card that's like, oh, AI bought it. It's like my dog ate my homework, but like for the adult world, like, oh, AI accidentally bought it. I didn't want this. Right.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you're going to have tiered applications or tiered everything that AI can produce, right? Whether it's software or images or videos or everything, you're going to have the really good stuff that's still made by professionals. And that's going to be tier one. Tier two is going to be maybe some AI augmenting it to make it a little easier and faster. And then as you get down, you're finally going to get to that throwaway stuff, like this podcast where we'll make an AI intro. And you're like, this isn't important. It's just two guys goofing off. So we might as well use AI to its fullest extent because there's not that much on the line.
Yeah.
A birthday banner or whatever other case you need to create, or an internal like
I hope your sister listens to this and you're just like, the birthday banner is not that important. Like,
it's so not important. It never actually made it to the birthday because I got so frustrated with the AI that I never made it. But yeah,
have you
you know what I'm saying?
considered glasses?
There's things that are going to be less important. That's where AI is going to be used heavily. Things that might not have been made otherwise, but now that it's
Yeah.
cheap and easy, we're going to have more of it.
We'll just feed in a bunch of, if we get some more episodes, next year, it's just going to be AI Tim and AI James talking about weird stuff.
Yeah, the first few episodes could be training data, and we could just go on autopilot.
I do like that. Like when you sent me the like brief for this particular topic, you're like, is it brilliant or frustratingly incompetent or both? And I'm like, look, I've met a lot of people, like humans, that are brilliant and frustratingly incompetent in like weird ways, right? Like you're like, wow, man, I would trust you to do anything with numbers, but I would never let you babysit. Right.
Yeah.
You could do my taxes, you could do my accounting, you could measure my shed and give me the blueprints for that, but you wouldn't be able to watch my daughter for 5 minutes because I don't trust that you understand how to keep a human alive.
I assume I'm high on that list, but
I mean, like you might get 5 minutes. You would just learn some really weird stuff.
but it does. I think it's worse than a human though, because usually with a human, you see the expectation early and you recognize it, whereas AI can do some one thing brilliantly and then the next thing horribly. So it sets this expectation that it should be brilliant, and it's just there's no in between, and there's really no growth until the new model comes out. So
Yeah, it reminds me of like you were talking about Netscape and JavaScript 30 years ago, but like there, I had to explain to my daughter that there once existed a world where like Google didn't exist, and you would like ask your dad something like, "Oh, who invented gasoline?" And he would, "Oh, like Greg Gasoline." Right? You just make something up to answer a stupid kid question, and AI kind of has that like I don't like to be wrong thing to it where it's like I don't like to not have an answer for you, and so it'll come up with like, and that's where it's like that old dad from 35 years ago type of mentality of like I don't know who invented Greg Gasoline. He invented gasoline.
so I'm laughing because you tell that story, and I know in the back of your head you're like, "Damn it, I want to be that dad that gets to say Greg Gasoline. Why does there have to
Oh,
be Google and AI and everything else to correct me?"
oh yeah, my daughter doesn't believe anything I say. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I totally see you
yeah,
making up stories and answers just to have an answer.
yeah. Yeah, it was like she was like 2 or 3, and she was doing something, and I was like, "Yeah, if you I was trying to get in the shower. I'm like, "If you don't get in the shower, I'm gonna turn into a dragon." And she like looked at me, and it was like that moment where she's like, "This guy might not always be accurate." But it's a funny concept because like humans aren't right either, and we're like, "Yeah, we're always wrong." But then AI, we're like, "AI is wrong, is infallible." And, you know, okay, yeah, humans bat 1,000 all the time. So, like, what is it about AI that makes us so much more frustrated when it's wrong versus a human?
Yeah, I mean, part of it might be that it's really changing our expectations of software because most software is deterministic, right? And AI is not.
No,
AI gives you different answers at different times, and it's really confident all the time.
but then, like, doesn't that actually make it like, hey,
Yeah,
you've achieved human intelligence, which is you don't actually know that much and you're wrong all the time. But my God, are you confident about
it
it?
does. It definitely makes it more human-like, and maybe that's why we're mad at it. We
Yeah,
want our cold robots back.
it
Um,
broke it broke the magic of computers because we're like, it used to be computers were, oh, this is a bug. I'm really sorry, this is wrong. But then, now it's like, it's learning. And we're like, that's not cool. It's like if you found out, like you could talk to dogs and found out that they just lie all the time. Like, not like in a bad way, but like the lie, like a high school lie where it's like, my uncle knows Tony Hawk or my uncle is Tony Hawk type of lie.
yep.
It would kind of ruin dogs for you because you'd like watch Air Bud and be like, I bet that dog cheats.
I mean, since we've established that it's human intelligence, maybe that should be our first round of would you rather. Would you rather work with overconfident human beings or overconfident AI? But they both make a lot of mistakes.
Oh, that is like a really good. That's not. You didn't even give me that one. You just so the listener. I'm not using plural. Listener, like James made that one up on the spot, and that is. I feel like overconfident AI, and here's why. Because like I've had overconfident AI, and then I'm in my frustration. I'm just like, that's wrong. And the overconfident AI is like, you're right, and I'm sorry that I failed you, and I am still learning, and I will get better. Where like overconfident person, I'm like it's not even a difference of opinion. I'm like, that doesn't work. And they're like, of course it does. I have no basis to make this claim other than the fact that I feel in my gut that I am correct. Uh and
Yeah.
there's no like humility like a computer. The computer is full of humility.
Yeah. All right. That's fair.
I mean, has that not been your experience with AI when you're like, you know,
I mean, I've had AI try to gaslight me a little bit, where it
yeah,
takes me telling them it's wrong twice before they finally back down and go, "Yeah, you're right." But the flip side of that is even when they're right, if you tell them they're wrong enough times, often they'll just give up and be like, "Sure, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I'll do better next time." And I do want a little bit of pushback, especially when I'm wrong, because I'm wrong also. So I don't know. Maybe the human's more likely to be like, James, you're full of it. And I'm not backing down because I know I'm right and I can prove it this time around. So there's that aspect too. I don't need
it's
a yes man.
you need like it's like conflict's not bad. It's how you resolve it that's bad. And like the
Yes.
AI, like, okay, sure, you're right. Like, not great. I need AI to be like, look, I'm barely certain I'm right on this one. You need to check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah. That's
Uh,
exactly what I need.
that's what I need. I need AI to literally respond back to me. Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah. Well, one day I want them to come back and be like, here are my sources. Hasn't happened yet. But one of these days I want it to come back that way when I tell it it's wrong.
Yeah. I mean, that would be awesome because then when they start talking about like generative AI and all that fun stuff, you'd be like, there might have not been a ninth Star Wars movie because AI would have been like, this sucks. you you shouldn't bring Palpatine back.
All right. I want to go to the next. Would you rather? Or
Yeah, we keep going. We get with one that's scripted, or are you just like spitballing some more?
I'll get a scripted one.
Let's do. Are we doing
Uh,
improv?
yeah. Would you rather spend 50% of your time doing code reviews with consistently bad code, or work on a team where all of your productivity is just measured in like lines of code and story points and other meaningless metrics?
So you since you injected the word meaningless in there, I think I know your answer. So I'm gonna. Are you like pro code reviews, poor
I
not poor metrics?
I did spill it by paraphrasing. You're absolutely right.
I picked up on that, James.
Yeah, I would definitely go with the code reviews. Yeah, reading bad code sucks, but at least I can feel like I'm teaching and helping other people, which isn't too bad.
Yeah,
Especially
there's
if they
like
learn over time.
there's a light at the end of the tunnel situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably the same boat. I find metrics interesting just from the perspective of like, has there ever been any sort of good or successful outcome of ever measuring human performance, like in any way? Like, it's actually, there's actually like a lot of historic things where it's like, this is, you shouldn't do this. And I find it funny that we keep trying to do it in like code. And I've never found a way that's not gameable.
Well, I think that's the positive outcome. If I had a job where I hated my job and hated the company, I might choose the poor metrics because you can totally game those. You can
Yeah.
keep your head down, you can manipulate the metrics, look like an all star, and collect your paycheck. So there's a case where maybe that's the right choice if you're just trying to earn the paycheck and move on.
I guess. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm all about the code reviews. I'm actually fairly big pro code review. I think it's a good way for people to learn on both sides.
Nice. All right. Well, I think we're closing past that 30-minute mark.
Are we?
Yeah.
I told you we would fill out content.
So definitely, if there is anyone listening to this, definitely send us feedback, write some comments, tell us what we did right and wrong, so that the next episode will probably be exactly the same. But we'll take the feedback.
Yeah, or if there's a topic you want us to cover, I know we're coming up with a whole bunch of stuff, but you know, um, we're good with opinions. So if you want to hear some of ours, just ask.
Absolutely. All right.
All right. Thanks for listening from multiple places. We're going to be on YouTube and Spotify and the on Apple. So wherever you're listening from, thanks. And if you made it this far, thanks again. And I think like we're trying to do a relatively good cadence. So about like I think like 2 weeks is what we were saying for potentially the next one.
First I'm hearing it, but sounds good to me.
Let's do it next tomorrow. What are you doing tomorrow?
I think I'm editing this one. So yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you later.